Hey, what's up, y'all? So, before we get into today's podcast episode, I wanted to set the tone and ask you a few questions because we're going to have a very deep and engaging conversation today. And so, if you're already in business, let's just say in the last 12 months or maybe even longer, have you ever felt in business that your business or your streams of income weren't flowing in the way that you expected? Maybe it could have been launching a digital product, filling your private practice, or maybe even hiring for your group practice. So, what I'm going to be talking about today with you is something that came up in one of our programs from a couple of our clients, and it led to a huge aha moment for both me and our community. And I want to dive deep and explain how therapists and service providers often view their business challenges as external problems when in reality, they may actually be approaching the solution with the wrong mindset. So let's go ahead and hop into today's podcast episode.
Funny how the story goes, little hope but bigger dreams.
Y'all, welcome back. My name is Dr. TK, and I am super excited for this topic. So this topic today has been, I'm going to say, building up over time, maybe over the last 6 months. But sometimes, with content, you don't want to put something, or I may choose not to put something out there until it's like the big light bulb goes off. When that happens, I'm not waiting 6 months, 6 weeks to plan this. I'm going to go ahead and map it out on my phone by texting out my thoughts, and then I'm going to go ahead and record. So hence, I had this aha moment today. Okay. So part one that we're going to be talking about is recognizing transferable skills. So when you think about it from a therapist or a service provider perspective, you went to school, you got some form of training, and then you sat down to get licensed. So you already have come in the game of business with having at least 50% of the skill set, meaning you know how to do your job, you know how to be a great therapist. So therapists already have skills that are transferable into their business, but they don't know it yet. And if they don't recognize it, they actually feel like they're starting from scratch. Does that sound familiar? So a common mindset block sounds something like, I don't know how to run my business. Something is going wrong. I had a flop. However, you already know, for example, how to build relationships. That in a coaching business would be like relationship capital, building qualified leads, right? So you already know how to build relationships as a therapist. You also know how to assess the needs. You do intakes a lot. You also know how to create a transformation. You know how to explain to a client or a patient exactly what they're going to get by working with you at a job or in private practice. I don't care if they're paying through it for it through insurance. It doesn't matter if they've been referred to you through a clinic and you're just given clients. At the end of the day, the treatment won't work if the client doesn't want to be there. And if you cannot tell them what they're going to get out of it, they're not going to keep coming back, right? So my first question to you is, are you looking at your business coach or mentor or the program you invested in through the lens of your therapist identity or as the business owner who needs support? So here's an analogy, and feel free to pause this episode, think about it, and really let this simmer in. If a client never reaches out to you as a therapist in between sessions for support, even if they're struggling, what typically happens is they slow down with their progress. And I know as a therapist, we put boundaries in place unless you work at a location where you're on call. You give them activities, coping skills, unless it's like a crisis, and you still give them other alternative numbers to call and things like that so that they can get their needs met. So I want you to think about that as a therapist serving clients. You create boundaries and you give them tools to help them utilize your resources outside of session. The goal would be that if you're seeing this person weekly, that they bring it into the room the next session, right? However, When we look at it from the coaching side, I find it interesting that it's almost like therapists have the mindset of working, for example, with me as another therapist versus their business coach. And I truly believe that this is in or on the unconscious level. So just let that simmer in for a moment. Are you looking at your business coach or the program you invested in through the lens of a therapist identity or as the business owner who needs support? Which one is taking the front seat? Part 2, are you unconsciously holding back? So as I just mentioned, as therapists, we teach boundaries to our clients, right? We have structured environments online or in person. We have rules for on call, meaning we don't have on call. We have crises protocols. We have protocols around what contact does not look like outside of session, etc. So when you were talking about a business, there are different types of programs, some that are memberships, courses, a blend of the two. Some of them have ongoing access to mentorship. Some of them have Facebook groups or online communities. And then we also have those that are more personalized. You have VIP option. You have group chats like Voxer, Slack, or Telegram, where that person gets direct access to the mentor or the coach. And then depending on the program structure, you may also have group Q&A sessions, or for our programs, we do asynchronous model, which means that you have the ability to submit your questions, and then we tell you the length of time that you can submit those questions for based on when you join the program. So this is where the aha moment came in for me today, right? Is some of my clients right now, they do not reach out in between coaching calls, and I'm talking about my one-on-one clients. Now, I get it. A lot of service providers have not actually been in one-on-one coaching. Some of them have been in our other group programs in which I very much had boundaries around. If it's not a group session and you don't post it in Facebook, I don't, communicate with you in a DM, kind of thing like that. I don't coach in the DM. You join the program, so submit your questions through the mechanisms that we have in the program. But in our programs that have access one-on-one, which we've had different programs, it's not just this one. And it's not just this year that I've actually talked about this on the podcast, but it's probably been a while, right? But our clients sometimes do not reach out in between sessions because we meet once a month. And even though they may be struggling in some parts of their business, I believe, and get in my DM and correct me, is some therapists may start having their first identity as a therapist kick in versus I'm a business owner getting help. So what would this look like? The therapist may have the transferable mindset of, oh, I don't want to bother them. I know she's with her son. I know they're out of town. You know what? I should figure this all out by myself. I should use the skills she gave me. I'll just wait until the next meeting. And by all means, these all make very much sense. Now, the one that definitely does not make sense, I'll just outright say it, is the one that says, I don't want to bother them, because the boundary that I put in place anytime I give our clients Slack or Voxer, especially those two, because they know they have ongoing access, is just structured differently based on the program, is I'll say, it does not matter, and I'll say this before they even join the program, if you hit me at 2 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast and I'm on Pacific Standard Time, when I get it, I'm going to get it at the time that I have a window created to communicate with my clients between regular business hours. And even if you see the double check mark that I listen to it and it's 12 o'clock at night, it doesn't mean you're going to get a response at 12 o'clock at night. It just might mean I literally was listening to it. So that's the only one that's like the outlier, that it's like not an excuse as to why you don't reach out, but I understand that it's part of the therapist mindset that kicks in, right? Now, the other two makes sense, but we're going to talk about them. So I should figure this all out by myself. Now, on one end, as a coach, I do want my clients to be resourceful, because just like being a therapist, right? You don't want your client to become so codependent on you that they stay in therapy for the rest of their life, meaning they literally feel like they cannot do anything on their own. That is codependency. I don't do that at all. It doesn't mean that people cannot be in coaching or therapy for a long period of time, but there should be a certain level of maturity and growth that happens over time where people start to trust themselves, that they go to as needed sessions, that they're okay with seeing their coach monthly and they know when to tap in and ask questions. The mindset or statement of, I'll just wait until the next meeting. Well, if you're in a launch or hiring processes and nothing has to go wrong, but you just maybe want to tell me what you've done for maybe even accountability purposes, or maybe to see if I have a question for you, you can simply just go over to the feed that we have for you and send me a message. Believe me, I'm not going to be bothered. Just to show you how my boundaries are set up in coaching, just like I'm sure yours is set up for your therapy practice. People go to voicemail. People go to an email and they maybe get a response automated. Well, for me, the same thing goes for any app that we use to communicate with our clients. I actually have taken off all notifications on my phone because I don't like to be distracted from nobody except the people in my house. And they are on my favorites list. If you have an iPhone, you know what I'm talking about. So think about it. Is there some truth to maybe you showing up in your coaching investment or your course investment to get what you need out of it, because unconsciously you're showing up in the therapist seat, not in the business owner seat? So let's look at this a little bit deeper, and then I'm gonna give you a little case study. Part 3. I want you to get the most out of your investment always. Always. Okay. So you do not pay for courses or coaching programs or memberships. You actually pay for a transformation. Everybody does. Even if you don't know it, you're paying for what's at the end, right? So think about it. If you're holding back from using all of the resources available to you, you're not actually getting what you paid for. Why am I emphasizing you and your? Because accountability matters. You have to take accountability for the outcome. So this is how you can reframe your investment with how you look at it. Would you rather wait and struggle in silence, or simply submit the question and get clarity and move faster? Well, you may be thinking, well, I don't know what question to ask. Well, shoot your shot. I'm sure as a 18 plus year teacher and professor of high school kids, all the way up to the doctoral program, I can help you figure out the right question. You just simply have to let me in and let me guide you. Second reframing mindset is, are you showing up like someone who's actually in the program and working the program? Or are you someone who's committed to getting the results? So there's going to be two people that are in most programs. The person who buys it and who may justify showing up to a call or logging into the portal just because they paid for it. And then there's the person who intentionally goes to a section in the portal because they're working on that thing in their business. When they're watching or listening to the lesson, they're going to gauge what their question is or what they want feedback on. They're going to write it down while they're in the program, not when they lose access. And they're going to shoot their shot. Okay. So let's talk about how all of this has actually come together a multitude of times. And I want to be clear, because sometimes, based off timing, some people may think certain episodes from, my conversations in DM sometimes, that, and it's not anything negative, let me put that out there, but sometimes people may feel like I'm coming for them. Like some of my clients, like, oh my God, you coming for me. And I'm like, I don't even know what's going on with you. That's why I'm doing an episode. I don't know what's going on with you, right? So this has been a recurring theme for all of my business. Why? Because I work with individuals who are bomb AF therapists who know how to do their job in a very excellent manner as a therapist. But somehow, sometimes the transferable skills of how to show up as a student, because, once we get licensed, we act like we never went to school, right? When you have to show up as a student and low-key erase everything you're coming in with so that you can come in and sit down and be open-minded, and actually let me coach you, it, sometimes goes out the window. So I just want to do this as a reminder to tell, especially our clients who have any level of access, to use it. So let me share with you this takeaway. We had a client in our mastermind for a total of 3 years. Okay. And they renewed and they renewed. And here's the thing, maybe thinking, why do they renew so much? They can get in, 1 year and be done or whatever, because it was a mastermind. It was a longer container. And there were certain expectations, especially when you get my access. And so most of our students renew. I mean, I've renewed in masterminds primarily because once I solve one problem, a higher level problem will appear. That's just the nature of business. If you really think that like business problems are going to end very similar to you when you got your degree and it's over, well, ask yourself, why do they make you get CEs? To make sure that you're up to date with what's going on in the field. There will always be another level thing that you have to cover. So if that's not what you like, you got in the wrong field and you shouldn't be in business, period. Right? So when I was coaching this client, by this point, they had launched a lot of different types of digital products, and they were in a new type of digital product launch. So this individual is very diligent with making sure that they check in at minimum once in between our sessions, whether the sessions were group or one-on-one. But because they had been in our program for 3 years, they had heard me talk about this topic over and over again, because I was trying to warn people up, like, don't be scared, just get help. Because at the end of the day, I want you to win. I actually don't win unless you win. I like for people to walk with me up the mountain, them just not watch me get to the cliff and wave and say, oh, I should have went. Like, no, walk with me. But let me be clear. There will be only so much invitations that I can give out before I just run up the damn mountain. Okay. So what am I getting at? This particular client, they made it a habit to send me an update every single week. They actually didn't have questions, but when they did, they asked them. But the questions did not come up that much. Why? Because if you watch the lessons that I've created in, I know, a course portal that we don't like to log into, a lot of the questions are answered simply by being patient. So in one particular instance, she was in the launch and she didn't wait on our next group call or one-on-one call, but she did want to give me an update. And part of her update was a little bittersweet. She set up a goal. The goal was 75% or so met. And she had 48 hours before her cart had closed on her product. So she was like, she had told me this hindsight, like, I just want to send you a check-in or whatever. So she sent me a voice note. And she didn't directly ask for feedback, but she did say something to the effect of, if you have any insight to what I can do, I'm all open ears. I'll take anything. And I said, okay. And for number purposes, she had to get 2 more people in her program to have her first 5-figure launch, over $10,000. Okay. And this is a mental health provider. So when she left me the message, I'm sitting here taking notes. And let me be real, like, because some of y'all ain't never coached me before, one-on-one or in these feeds. And so I get my best thoughts out either early in the morning when I'm at the gym or when I'm taking walks, even when my son is on the playground. So some of my clients can probably tell y'all. Some people may say it's unprofessional, but I'm like, you will probably get the best of me if I'm able to flush out all my thoughts versus feeling like I have to be forced to answer your question in the next 5 minutes, right? So I take notes when someone is talking to me, which is why I may take a minute to respond. That's why we tell our clients, give me 1 to 2 business days. And if I'm out of town at a live event, that time will be expanded, probably because they're at the live event with us. So I wrote down notes and I gave her feedback. And one of the pieces of feedback she said when I said it was so simple, but sometimes when you are overwhelmed in your product launch, you forget that a third eye can give you a whole different perspective. So she took my suggestion, and my suggestion was, she was doing everything via email. She had did some stuff live, and she was doing the follow-up email sequences or whatever. And so I said, I know that your time capacity has changed since, she's been coaching with me. So I get that. But I believe that your 2 people are either on your social media or on your email list, hands down. So, and I'm telling her this in the voice note, I would like you to, if you have the capacity to do it, you don't have to hit me back and tell me you gonna do it, just do it, right? Tell me the outcome. I said, this is what I would like you to do because you've done it before with something else. I want you to send an invitation, go tweak an email and say, if you've been struggling with making the decision, and all this other messaging stuff, I want you to click this link to get on my calendar. And I'm like, do you got like 4 hours? If you have 4 hours, let everybody take up a 30-minute spot. They don't need to take up 30 minutes, but maybe you tell them a 15 to 20-minute check-in to see if they're a good match for the program. Within 48 hours, 2 people hopped on her calendar. She met with them within the 48 hours. They signed up for the program before her car closed. Why did she get that result? The results of her launch did not just happen. She put in all the work. She built up momentum. But here's the key. She adjusted as needed without feeling like she knows everything. She got clarity faster when she reached out simply to give me an update. Now, an update is different than a question. I'm going to do another episode on examples of regular questions and then questions that are going to get you results. Okay, so I'm not even going to even give y'all a sneak peek right now, but just know it's juicy. And when I have worked on this with my clients on their one-on-one calls that I'll let y'all get a sneak peek into some of the things that I've shared, is it was eye-opening because they realized this is why they may not have been moving as fast, primarily because they weren't finding the right way to ask the question. Because I'm not psychic, right? I cannot get into my client's head to figure out what's going on to help them with their product. It's not my product. So the lesson from that case study is you got to be okay with starting off small. You want to be okay with consistent actions like asking questions and using resources. I cannot emphasize that enough. And it doesn't have to be resources all in our program. It may have been something that I told you to go listen to or watch. Did you go do it? So what we're also talking about is, are you being coachable? You can't join a coaching program and not be coachable. It'll be very similar, like a hypocrite of low-key saying I want all my therapy clients to, at some point, trust me to open up, to know that I'm going to help them. Oh, but they being resistant. Well, are you being resistant in your business? I could drop the mic right there. So using your resources, asking questions, and putting your ego to the side, which is a whole nother episode within itself, makes the world of a difference in growing and scaling your business. So the last question I have for you, and depending on where you are listening to this podcast episode at, if it's on the audio, you can head over to Instagram. If it's on YouTube, just go down to the comment section. If you desire for us to have a conversation, are you holding yourself back from getting the help that you need? Just tell me. Be honest. Be accountable to yourself and the higher version or the next version of you. And identify, if you want to go a step further, one thing you're stuck on right now, and go actually and ask for help. Don't ask for permission to ask for help. Ask for help. If that person cannot ask you, they will tell you, or you will be able to tell that they cannot help you. Okay. So this could be whether you're in a coaching program, mentorship, or business community. And guess what? If you're in one of those communities where you feel like everybody's following the trends or the posts and nobody's answering, you in a wrong community. Go find another one. So if this episode has resonated with you, go ahead and share this episode on Instagram, post it in your stories, tag your girl, get into my DM. And if you're listening on YouTube, I would love for you to be a part of our Abundant BFF community. And so go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to audio and you ain't tapped in on YouTube, we got workshops over here. From time to time, I do audio, but from time to time, I also drop in videos, and you don't want to miss it. Okay. So let's grow your business. All right. Thank you so much for tapping in. I will talk to y'all on the next episode. Bye.